You're listening to the Generational Wealth Through Commercial Real Estate podcast. Your host, Will Smith, is a former NFL player that found his passion in commercial real estate. Every week, you will learn from industry experts everything you need to know to get started investing in commercial real estate to build generational wealth.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is Eric Upchurch. He is an Army Special Operations veteran who grew up in Central Iowa before attending college in California. He has a passion for educating the multifamily community on how to create long-term wealth through real estate investing, while personally investing across the country for the last 14 years. Eric serves as the COO and co-founder of Active Duty Passive Income and is a senior manager partner with ADPI Capital. Most recently, Eric's team has opened a nationwide, first of its kind, 100% employee-owned mortgage branch, real estate brokerage, as well as an insurance company, all with the goal of serving the ADPI community of military real estate investors. Eric's personal portfolio and related experiences as a general partner on 571 doors. He's a limited partner on 575 doors. His involvement is in over 43 million in multifamily assets with experience in sourcing, guarantor KP, capital raiser, risk capital, and asset management. He's also a co-author, Amazon #1 best-selling book, Military House Hacking. And there goes the book for those watching on YouTube. And he's an accredited investor. Hey, Eric, man, thanks for coming on the show today.
I am very fortunate and happy to be here in your presence. So appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, I mean, obviously that was a really quick bio, man. Just tell us a little bit more about, who you are and why you decided to go with real estate.
Yeah. In the bio, you said, been doing this 14 years, but it's really a lot like many military real estate investors. I started kind of by accident and, used the VA loan and bought my house in Savannah, Georgia, where I was stationed, and put zero down. That's the power of the VA loan that we talk about in the book. And, zero down, you roll in your closing costs, and, you can even do a rehab loan if you need to and roll that all in there. So really buying property with no money down was very appealing to me as a 24-year-old,
Absolutely.
And so I fell into it then. That property ended up being a rental as I moved on from the military and back to California. So that's kind of how I got started a little bit. Then, from there you start going, well, I'm making $100 a month on that property, which is nothing now. But, looking back, I'm going, well, dang, man, somebody else is paying my mortgage. Is there a way to is there a way to do this bigger and better?
Yeah.
So, my bio is one thing, but really I'm just a regular guy who likes to hustle and likes to learn new things. And I'm also somebody who a lot of your listeners can probably relate to, just somebody who's never going to quit. And that is really an essential piece of kind of where I've gone in the last, 5 to 14 years, really.
Right. Now, you mentioned something very interesting from your book there. So you talked about house hacking, and explain that to the listeners that don't understand that, because that's a very unique deal.
Yeah. So our company, Active Duty Passive Income, is the premier military real estate education platform in the country right now. We're growing at a huge rate, and we have a lot of people coming to us saying, "Thank you for just lighting a fire under my butt by writing this book." So The book, by the way, is free. You can buy it on Amazon, but it's free on our website.
Wow.
So your listeners can go there and check it out. But the concept behind military house hacking, there are several ways to do it. Let's say someone buys a single family property and they live in it. Young sergeant, as soon as they move out of the barracks and are finally able to live off post, young sergeant or lieutenant, wherever they stand, and they put zero down, and there's no primary mortgage insurance on a VA loan, so there's no PMI. So it's zero. It's truly zero down. You can even roll in the closing costs, the VA loan funding fee, all that stuff that goes into it. You can roll that into the loan. So you still have to qualify for the loan, obviously. But
right.
But then a lot of young guys who are unmarried will rent out the rooms in their property if it's a single family, and they'll cash flow because the other guys are getting basic allowance for housing from the military also, which is supposed to be paying their rent. So everyone wins, and the person who bought the house. So that lights up a lot of light bulbs in people when they say, "Whoa, I can buy something, and I'm gonna cash flow this sucker." Right. And and I got my buddies living with me, and we can all keep each other accountable, whatever. So now step that up a little bit. The VA loan, actually, you can buy a duplex, a triplex, or a quad. So imagine now, and what we teach in this book is just kind of the idea. And a lot of people don't know that. So go buy a fourplex at your first duty station, live in one unit because it's an owner-occupied loan, and rent out the other 3 units. You're living for free. Your tenants are paying down your mortgage, adding equity to your bottom line, adding net worth to your bottom line every single month. And then guess what? You get your orders to your next duty station. You can go to your next duty station, refinance the first fourplex to a conventional loan, and then go do this again at your next duty station with no money out of pocket again. Huge benefit. You could have 40 doors by the time you retire. But no money into that are all cash flowing like crazy.
That's insane, man. It's
insane. And only, only America's military gets to do that. It's great. It's an amazing benefit. And there are, more facets to that and stuff. But for instance, the VA loan cap just January 1 this year, 2020, the VA loan cap was just removed. And there are some county to county and state by state variances with lender to lender and stuff like that. But for the most part, you were capped at, between 400 or about 500,000 and 700,000 on how much you could have fully funded. But now they've removed that cap. So someone in California that has to buy, not has to, but is in a market that needs $1 million house, you don't have to come up with the difference between the cap and the purchase price anymore. So it's pretty amazing.
Man, that's pretty cool, man. Yeah, that really is. I got a brother-in-law and a cousin in the military, both of them in the Marines, and believe me, I'm definitely going to share this episode with them.
Please do. Yeah. And have them reach out to me afterwards, and I'll give them a bunch of free resources. We have a free VA loan mastery course that they can listen to and just learn about it. Most people just don't know. No one's teaching it. Wow. So we are.
Absolutely, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, you started out with doing the smaller multifamily house hacking quads. When did you transition into the bigger multifamily?
Yeah. So about 1.5 years ago, I attended a multifamily conference, and my eyes were, and actually one of my business partners, Mark Young, he had been following Rod Cleef on the podcast. I'd never even heard of him at that point, but he's like, "Hey, I got a free ticket to his show," or it was like $100 or some discounted thing. Just go to it. That just blew my mind. I didn't know anything about, you drive by on the freeway, you drive by an apartment complex. I didn't know how people bought those. I just thought like big, rich developers owned those things, and they had mega mass millions of dollars. And a lot of, in California, they probably do, but like, I didn't know that like a guy like me could go raise capital and pull together a bunch of investors and buy something. I didn't know what a syndication was. I had no idea how that worked. Yeah. So in 3 days, my eyes were just like wide open. But I also, in that 3 days, I was like, I'm going to network my tail off, and I'm also going to try to learn this business because I think I can do it. And then I pointed to the stage. I met this guy, Kevin, there, and I was like, I pointed at that stage and said, in a year from now, I'm going to be on that stage. And almost exactly a year later, I was on that stage talking at that conference. Wow. So that was pretty good. But so I guess I'm just saying, like, if you're intentional about learning something and you really dedicate yourself, and this to all your military listeners, this will probably correlate pretty well, because in the military, you will never fail because we don't quit, right? Yeah. You learn something, you get proficient in the Army, they say proficient in your warrior tasks and drills, right? You are the SME, the subject matter expert in what you do. Yeah. And when you learn something to that point, you can not only reach up and grab someone else's attention like a mentor, but you can help so many people behind you. Yeah. And that's how you build the team, and that's how you never quit, because you have people reaching down to help you up, and you have people pushing you up that you're also trying to grab. So it's an amazing kind of culture and fit. And you can tell by how much I'm talking, I love mentorship and real estate and military, and I get to do it every day. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's pretty good, man. That's pretty good there. Now let's touch on that for a moment. You mentioned going to an event, and I'm going to a lot of events this year because it's all about networking.
Yeah.
What's your best strategy around going to events? Because some people say, find one or two and build a great relationship with them, and then some say, hey, talk to as many people as you can. So what's your strategy?
I'm glad you asked that, because in 2019 I had to figure this out for myself. I was traveling a lot, and I still have a full-time W-2 job that I like as well. So I'm doing real estate on the side and ADPI on the side and everything.
Yeah.
So I was traveling a lot, and I have a wife and 2 kids. And so I have to go into these things with intention. And one of my good buddies said, don't go to these conferences just to go, especially one that you've already been to a bunch of times. Go with intention.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are out there who are trying to figure out which one to go to, try several different conferences in one year. So in 2020, go to like 4 different types of conferences, but you need to, by the way, you got to get your butt out. You said it, you got to get your butt out there in front of people so they know who you are, what you need, be aware, be helpful, be present. Yeah. Then that's how you build your personal brand. And that's what's important about networking.
Right.
But so go to 4 or 5 or whatever you can get to, your local meetups and RIAs and all that stuff too. And then at the end of the year, look back and go, which ones did I enjoy the most? Which ones did I meet the best relationships and maintain? Yeah. And which ones were, too expensive or not valuable enough for what I need, or not the right fit or whatever. So then you can kind of year 2 hone it down. So I've done that this year, and I've got several that I'm going to, but I'm also still adding a couple on that I missed last year. So, because I couldn't do all of them in one year, I got too much going on. So
yeah. And if you don't mind sharing, man, which ones are on your list for this year?
Yeah, so I go to every Rod Cleef event now, and because I know that there's 600 like-minded investors there, I can raise capital for any multifamily deals there just from networking and talking. And the last couple of deals we've done are 506C deals. So anyway, I go to all the Rod Cleef events. I know a lot of people at those now, but there's always new people there as well. I mean, 600 people. The next one's in LA coming up. And I'm excited to be there. Then I'm going to Joe Fairless. I was on his podcast this year or last year, and he's got the best ever real estate advice. He's got the longest running daily show or something. I shouldn't say or something. It is it's kind of a big podcast. But anyway, so I'm going to his conference in Keystone, Colorado in February, and just so. I do a couple masterminds also, which I think are hugely important for anybody who's considering getting into a mastermind. They can be very expensive, so make sure you're prepared for that. But what you get from that is a kind of a niche down group, right? So you go to like a Rod Cleef event, then you get kind of I would say the best of the best, but that doesn't really correlate. It's the most serious of the most serious, or the most dedicated of the most serious people who join a mastermind, and they get together, and like minds really form business relationships quickly in a mastermind, and you share business tips. And, I went to Aruba this year with a mastermind. Later this year, we're going on another trip out of country, but this one in particular doesn't tell you until the last minute, which kind of keeps it suspenseful. So that's kind of neat. But I'll be traveling around with masterminds this year as well. So
man, that's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. And I would definitely say that's a big key to your success, man. Just building those awesome relationships with people that's making noise in the industry. I mean, that's the way to do it,
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about obviously you're in multifamily. So why did you choose multifamily over like office or retail? Like, what was it about multifamily that made you want to just go all in on that one?
Yeah, natural progression. I did 7 single family houses in Kansas City last year, early last year and late 2018, I guess.
Yeah.
And then when I started going to a multifamily conference, it was just a natural progression to go from, one asset that's similar to the next bigger step up, right? Yeah. but now I'm looking at, storage facilities as well. And I think that is just the natural progression for so many people, because everyone lives in a house and then they read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then they go, well, how can I scale? And the way to scale and the way it's safer and all this other stuff is multifamily. So how can I learn multifamily? And then you're like, once you do a little bit of multifamily, you're like, there's probably something else. Like, what is Grant Cardone doing? Like, what is, like, there's probably triple net. Could I buy a parking lot or a skyscraper or the land under a skyscraper, or, we're buying mobile home communities now, which is cool. Yeah. So there are a lot of different asset classes to consider. The one thing that I would deter people from doing, unless they have a good enough or focused enough team, is spreading too thin on that stuff. So I like to learn a lot of different things, and I've done, from lending to tax liens to, flipping to single family, multifamily, whatever. Yeah. But that's just my personality. I also surrounded myself by a team who is focused. And unless you have the right team, you don't want to get too spread out with what's going on. So learn one niche, learn one asset class, get really good at it, and then start dabbling, in the next asset class that intrigues you once you've got some security.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, man. And any entrepreneur-minded person is going to be like that. They're going to kind of always be looking for the next opportunity. Where is the cash flow at? And so that's very common. But you said a good point. You got to build a solid team around you to make that happen for you. Yep. Okay, so let's talk about how are you finding your deals, man? Like there's a lot of stuff out there, but there's some good deals out there as well. How are you finding those?
Yeah. So, we look for deals primarily. I've been cold calling, get a list off CoStar and just cold call owners and brokers. And some people aren't comfortable with that. But again, it comes back to finding a team, right? Building a team. Yeah. Find somebody on your team. And that's why I say you go to these conferences with intention. Maybe you're somebody who'd rather sit behind a computer and never talk to anybody. That's fine, because somebody like me needs somebody like that. Right. And somebody like that needs somebody like me who doesn't care about cold calling, So I turn cold calling into warm calling. I like to talk to people and make them feel good and see if I can add value to them. And I don't care if they're a receptionist or the acquisitions director, and that's how you get through to people. Right. So cold calling is a good way to do it. And through that, building relationships. Yeah. Here's a tip for your audience. It's really going to be helpful, I think. You get on as many of these brokers or owners or whoever on their automated email lists. Yep. Even if you just have to ask them, hey, put me on your automated email list. Here's my criteria. Right. And then every week when they send you those quote unquote annoying emails that you get and you just delete every morning when you checking your phone, right? Yeah. Respond to every one of those and say, hey, Martin, I appreciate this listing. They probably didn't even know they sent it because it's automated, but you're emailing Martin or whoever back and saying, hey, Martin, I just want to let you know, thanks for sending me this. I want to remind you my criteria is 150 doors plus B and C in, the Indianapolis market or whatever your criteria is. Yeah. That way in their mind, they're always going, dang, Eric's the guy who always emailed me back. So next time 150 unit in Indianapolis is value add or whatever has a good story, I'm going to send this to Eric. That's what he's going to say. Right. So it's just through repetition, just like this hat, right? I bought this hat because the dang Facebook ad kept on popping up and going, hey, buy me, buy me, buy me. Well, same thing with cold calling and building relationships. If you're present and always adding value and always communicating, they're going to come to you first. So cold calling is one way. And then once you do one deal, brokers like to work with you again because you can close. So one good broker, my mentor always says, one good broker can make you rich. And it's true. Yeah. Depending on the market you're in. Right. Thirdly, I would say, so with this 80 unit we just bought in a tertiary market outside of Indianapolis, I spent 3 days networking in the community. I met the mayor. I met the funeral home owner. I met construction crews. I went to their job sites. I met the principal and the dean of the high school. Wow. And so I was constantly just like, who can I set up meetings with? Who can I talk to? That way they know that our intention is to have a teacher-friendly apartment complex. Our intention is to have actually the building commissioner. I met the building commissioner in the city hall. It's like, that was just good, because now if there's any issues with the building or zoning or anything like that, I can go, hey, Ron, let's talk about it. Let's fix this thing,
Right.
And then nearby businesses and all that stuff. So networking that way, I think, is important as well. So I think those 3 ways to find deals, because those people are also going to go, hey, this is a group of military guys who buy apartments and they dedicate their buildings to Medal of Honor recipients. Let's give them the next shot at this, 100 unit nearby or something. So,
right.
Yep.
Good deal. All right. That's good, man. That was some good points there. So what is if you can remember back, man, when you was first getting started, what was the biggest challenge you faced?
Yeah, let's see. One challenge that I faced initially was I didn't know what I didn't know. So the education piece, to me, I was enthralled. I wanted to learn, but I didn't know what niche I wanted to be in. So it took a little bit of time, and that's why I did kind of move horizontally before vertically. I wanted to dip my toes in a lot of different things to see how I know now. I don't ever want to invest in a tax lien again. It's too slow. I don't have as much control. I don't understand it as well.
Yeah.
I did some private lending. That's fine. But, there reasons why I don't really care to do that anymore. So, I think that was it. Just not knowing what I didn't know. And I wish I knew all this stuff 15 years ago. And thankfully now I have the opportunity to teach young, military and older military folks, retired, how to do this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Good deal, man. So, as far as the markets that you're invested in, man, which ones are you focusing on, and why did you choose those?
Yeah. Honestly, people say job growth and, kind of typical answers of, we got to do all the research, and, Neil Bawa, everyone follows, is like, Mr. Find the right market, never invest in Detroit because the numbers are looking like this, diving down. But honestly, I look at it a little bit differently maybe. And those are certainly important factors, but I look at like a tertiary market. We raised capital on this 80 unit, and it was in a town of 6,000 people outside of Indianapolis. So,
Wow.
So the largest asset, largest apartment complex in that town. So we had to convince our investors that this is a good idea. And the reason that we knew it was, and it's turning out to be a very a great deal, is because it had a great story. So we had to learn how to tell the story to the investors. For instance, it was a property that had been underperforming. The occupancy was high. It was over 90% occupancy, but the owner lived in Japan, and he owned it outright. So he didn't need to raise rents. He was making bank on that thing.
Right.
So we found this little diamond in the rough. It had new roof, new siding, and interiors were kind of dated. So there's some value add there. Property management was atrocious, and he had no control over what was going on. But it's across the street from the middle school and high school, and they're building a new elementary school right there across the street. Wow. Like 20 feet away. Yeah. And so we things like that. If a property in a tertiary market is 40 miles from Indianapolis, so drivable, and there's a Nestle factory nearby 10 miles away. Yeah. So there's industry there, but so it is about growth and all that stuff, because you want to make sure you have a solid investment. But if the property's been there for 40 years already, or 50 years, or whatever it is, and people are still moving in, then maybe it's a good deal if there's some meat on the bone left for you. And we found some. So
right. Now, when you're doing your deals, are you doing them 506B or C?
The last two we've done have been 506C. The mobile home park that we just purchased in southern Indiana, just north of Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
That was a 506C, and then the 80-unit apartment complex was a 506C also.
Okay. Well, yeah, man, I just want to get you to touch briefly on, man, how are you approaching potential investors and building that relationship? Because, people are only going to do business with people they know, like, and trust. So what are you doing to kind of meet them and then build that trust over time?
Yeah, know, like, and trust is a good one. I mean, on our, it sounds funny for me to even say, because maybe I'm dating myself here a little bit, but we have an amazing Facebook group that is all military, all real estate. We keep it super clean. There's no spam. There's no DM me separately.
Yeah.
It's a value add group. There's 7,200 members in there.
Yeah.
And we're constantly, adding, webinars and content and blogs, and we add so much value to the group that it's building. It's growing at 10% a month and has a 94% engagement rate with over 7,000 members. So because of that, I think, and then because of networking separately, everyone on my team likes to go and be out there and talk. And we just started kind of public speaking, and we were one of the sponsors of the Military Influencer Conference in Washington, D.C. And so just being out there and, when you're emailing people, it's not, they can't sense the tone of who you are. When there's something to be said about shaking hands and having coffee or dinner or something with people. So the more you can get out to a real estate conference or a meetup or whatever it is, or that's why Facebook Lives. I hate the way I look. I hate the way I sound. Most people do, right?
Yeah.
But then people can understand that you're smiling, or that you're, when you say something, you don't mean it in a negative way, or you mean it this way. And so there's just that personal element that really helps with brand building.
Yeah.
And that's how you get people to understand, that you have their best interest in mind, and they know your heart. And I think all that's really important.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So, as far as the deals, I mean, you're kind of going into, different asset classes with, the mobile home parks, and, obviously you've been in the multifamily. What kind of deals are you looking for as far as unit count, the class of them? Like, what are you looking for there?
Yeah, B and C class. We're not big hitters that buy, we're not Grant Cardone that buys, A-class properties. There's a lot of people that buy A-class properties now, but, and there's certainly some value in that proposition as well. It's just not our thing. So B and C with some kind of meat on the bone, and we have two funnels right now. We've got, mobile home park and also, multifamily, and we just stick to that. And we actually connected with a family office on this, the latest mobile home park acquisition, and they funded debt and equity. So it's pretty neat.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. Man. Now, when you're looking at these deals, obviously, you got to go through a lot of deals to find an opportunity. So that's a lot of underwriting. What are the red flags that you look for that says, hey, this is not a deal for me?
Yeah, I mean, you can do back of the napkin 50% rule, or but you're going to be 20% off of what they're asking either way or more. It's going to look like, well, they're asking 25% more than the property's actually worth once you get the T12 and rent rolls, and you're just like, how is that even a thing? So you can go in and go, well, I'm just going to offer them what makes sense. Or sometimes, like maybe you don't have the relationship with that broker. Right. I'm not going to submit an offer 25% lower than what, they are asking if I don't know the broker, because I'm out. I'm automatically out, so don't waste your time on an LOI. But just kind of there has to be clearly, just in the little bit of evidence that you get, you can call it evidence, I guess, but in the T12, the rent rolls, P&L, whatever you get, and sometimes the offering memorandum has all that stuff kind of in it. Just off of that information, you have to see how you can possibly, and your knowledge of the market and all that stuff, you have to be able to see immediately how you can make your numbers work. I mean, if you're not at 10% cash on cash, and you can't figure out a way to get to a 15% IRR, you may not be able to show interest, get enough interest from your investors, because you know what your investors are looking for.
Right.
So if you don't find those numbers to be workable, you can call the agent or call the broker and just say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. What am I missing? Because I need to produce X, Y, and Z from my investors. Do you see something different, or what am I missing here? And sometimes they're just gonna be like, oh, you just don't get it or whatever. But
Right.
and there are people out there that are going to overpay also, because that's fine. If they've got a trust or something and they can overpay and they only care about a 5% return, that's cool. That's not me though.
Right. Absolutely. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys getting into this investing game in the multifamily space, in particular. What are some of the biggest mistakes you're seeing these rookies making?
I think overpaying is a scary one. Not being able to pay your investors on time. I mean, if you're offering a pref and that pref is accruing year after year and you just still can't pull it together, I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster. So,
right.
A way to avoid that is to get a mentor, get coaching, and really learn how to not make your first mistake. You'll save hundreds of thousands of dollars if you just put a little bit of money and time into getting the right coach. I mean, you got to believe that, right? I use athletes all the time in my, I pay for coaching. I pay for masterminds all the time, because if you have a coach, I mean, you could have been the most athletic guy ever, but if you didn't have a coach, you wouldn't have been able to make it to the NFL.
Right.
You didn't have somebody telling you, do this. This is what your diet needs to be like. This is how hard you need to work, pushing you to the next level. Am I right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're 100% correct, man. Starting in college, everybody has ability, and there's only, a select few that gets to play in the NFL. And, it's not because they can't, but it's because they won't take coaching. The guys that has athletic ability and learn how to take coaching, they're the ones that get to take the next step. But, let me add this to it as well, though. Even when you get in the NFL, I mean, I had a great career playing, man, a lot of fun. But guess what, man? I was a pro and I still had a coach. So it don't matter how good you get, you're going to always need a coach. You're going to always need somebody to help you see where you're lacking and how to make you better. So, man, that's a good point.
I look at a guy like Michael Phelps. If he didn't have a coach telling him to eat 10,000 calories a day, he wouldn't have all those medals. I mean, it's one little thing, but if he didn't have a coach telling him he needed to be in the pool 8 hours a day, he wouldn't have all those medals. So, I mean, guys like you, guys like Michael Phelps, I mean, you're at the pro level. You gotta be producing, results from a pro also.
Absolutely. So, man, let's segue into the next segment of the show. We're going to do a deal deep dive. So let's talk about a deal you've done recently as far as unit counts. Was it a value add? What kind of debt you put on it?
Sure. Yeah, let's do this 80 unit, pretty recent acquisition. It was definitely a value add. We really wanted to, and this was our first acquisition as with this team collectively from start to finish. And I was a guarantor on the loan, and earnest money, risk capital, all that stuff, the whole thing from start to finish. So, we bought it for $3.25 million, 80 unit. And we did a Freddie Mac's SBL, small balance loan. And 80% leverage, and raised over $1 million with investors. It was an 80-20 split. It was that same property that the guy owned it outright, hadn't raised rents. So we're looking at, and this has actually a pretty neat situation that 8 of the 80, so 10% of the units, are 2-story townhouse units that are huge. They're 1,400 square feet, 1,452 square feet, 3-bedroom plus a den. So we can convert that. We didn't underwrite it this way, but we convert the den because it has egress and a closet. I don't know why they don't just call it a 4-bedroom, but essentially it's a 4-bedroom. So there were those, and the 3 bedrooms and the 2 bedrooms had that den version also. So we can automatically step those up and charge more for an additional bedroom, which is nice. But we had calculated or estimated that with our property manager locally there, that we were going to be able to get $750 rent for the 2-bedroom post renovation, and we were planning to put like $3,000. They didn't need much, $3,000 in renovation to each unit. And before we renovated a unit, when we took it over, we rented one at just new property management.
Yeah.
All we did initially. New property management, get in there, got one rented without renovating, because it was just a quick turn, like right away. Someone was ready right when we bought it.
Right.
$755. So over what we had projected post renovation, we were already getting. So we did that, and that's kind of, there's 10 or so vacant units that we're now renovating and going to bump up rents to almost $800.
Yeah.
They were undervalued garages. There's garages in there they're charging $25 a month for, so we're going to bump that up to 35 and see if it sticks. We can institute RUBS, ratio utility billing system, so billing back water utilities, which they were not doing and is common in that market. And that can be between $35 and $50 a month. And we're going to do some great things for the tenants. I mean, a lot of those units had not been renovated and since the 70s. Original cabinetry from the 70s. So we're sprucing them up. We're doing 2-tone paint and painting them white with, brushed nickel, just kind of sprucing them up. You can't be too fancy in a tertiary market. So we're not doing granite countertops. You have to be aware of the market you're in and what you're doing. But we're going to add a community garden and a playground and barbecue pits. Memorial Day, we're going to dedicate the building to, there's 10 buildings, dedicate the units to a Medal of Honor recipient. So we're going to get, local news and a bunch of people out there and stuff.
That's awesome.
But let's see, other value add. Oh, simple thing. Check this out. We just looked at the garbage contract. This is something that you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
So we changed the garbage contract from Waste Management or whoever it was to another one, a little local thing. Saved $600 a month on the garbage contract. Same service.
Yeah.
Increased the value of the property by $102,000.
Wow.
Think about that just from the garbage contract. So what else has been mismanaged? What else can we tweak? So now we're, you have to look at all of those little things, but
absolutely,
that's great for us. It's great for our investors.
Yeah.
And nothing changed for the tenants. So
yeah, most definitely, man. Now are you guys including cable and internet there, or is it something?
We have to work through that. There's a service contract on the cable still, so we have to wait till that expires, and then we'll work something out. But that's another way to do it. You contract a local cable provider and see if they'll give you a $10 kickback, on each unit or whatever, for using for anybody who uses it. So
absolutely,
and you can kind of go through. And there's actually somebody out there. I don't know if it's a company or if it was somebody locally, but it's their job to like look through all your service contracts and optimize them.
Yeah. I just interviewed a guy, his last name is Garner, but it's a utility building company, solution company. And they'll go through, like you said, they go through all of your utility contracts and see where they can reduce expenses, and they only get paid if they save you money. So
that's genius. I love that service, and that's why we connect. Now I can wait for that podcast and definitely check it out and connect.
Right, absolutely, for sure, man. So you said you put small balance Fannie on this?
Freddie.
Yep. Okay. So that's 30-year. Is it like a balloon on it, or?
Yeah, it's 10-year, and we got 3-year interest only at 4.4%. So pretty decent loan. And one of my partners owns a 56 unit nearby. Yeah. So we use the same lender, and so we got pretty favorable terms there, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. So what's the plan for the property? Are you guys going to sell in 5 years, or are you refinance and hold for the term? Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're all kind of buy and hold long-term mentality team, but we definitely plan to, our plan is to double our investors' money in 5 years, and then just see where we go from there. If they want out, then we'll gladly refinance and hand them their money, and they'll be ready for the next deal with us, and we can keep the property. That's kind of the plan, but we'll see. I mean, it's 5 years from now. So.
Yeah. I mean, I really like that strategy, man. double the investors' money. If they can double their money, they're going to be happy. And I'm like you, man. I want to buy and hold. Like, if you keep flipping, it's just like flipping the houses, but you're just flipping bigger properties, and you're going to always be doing that. So I'm about building generational wealth, man. That's how you do it for sure. Okay, so let's segue into the last segment of the show, man. The lightning round. 5 quick questions for you here.
Yep.
All right. What's the best advice you ever been given?
Take action. Got to get out there. People get stuck in analysis paralysis all the time in this industry.
Yeah.
It's one thing to learn. You have to learn. So we always say, learn, network, and I say, learn, network, add value, take action. If you do those four things over and over again, success will hunt you down. So, but the take action one is the biggest piece of it. Right. If you fail, at least you fail forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
fail on your face, not on your ass.
Good. Man, that's a great tip there. What's the best book you've read in the last year?
I loved Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. That was great. I've been reading a lot more. I should show you the stack of books I got over here now. I've got like, I don't know, probably 15 books that I'm behind on right now. So Never Split the Difference, Jocko Willink, who I got to interview this year, Extreme Ownership, and then Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Those were three great books that I read in 2019.
Gotcha. I got to check that Can't Hurt Me out. Good.
I
keep hearing that
so
book come
good.
up. Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, gotcha. I'm gonna check it out. What are some rituals that you're doing right now that's making you a better investor?
So this year, focus. My word, if I had to put it into one word, it'd be focus. And then I like to say I'm full of F words right now. It's family, fitness, food, and focus. Those things are kind of my key, my core right now, what I'm going to do this year. But I think that's probably it. Just stay focused and get after it.
Okay. All right. Next question. What is one thing you're doing right now to help you improve your business?
Building a team. Well, we have a team, but making sure that we're all on the right seats on the bus. It's one thing to get everyone on the bus and get your team built, but just to make sure, so fine tuning, and I have an amazing team at Active Duty Passive Income, and we are just kind of fine tuning each other, really keeping each other in check. We're actually considering doing peer evaluations internally with all the owners of the company, and just see if we all feel like we're fitting in the right seats of the bus. So I think that's something I'm looking forward to helping with.
That's pretty cool there. Okay, now last question here. If you can give your younger self one tip in regards to investing, what would that be?
Buy real estate, and then buy more real estate.
It's simple, right?
I mean, honestly, but it's buy real estate and then wait. Don't wait to buy real estate.
Yeah. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, man. So, we're here at the end of the podcast. Tell my listeners, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on activedutypassiveincome.com. Eric at activedutypassiveincome.com is my email. At Real Eric Upchurch on Instagram. I'm all over Facebook. And if you're military, you're listening, or if you're a military mom or spouse or retired or guard or whatever it is, go to Military Real Estate Investing in Facebook and get in our group. Huge value there. We have tons of free resources too. We've got the podcast. We've interviewed Cardone, Kiyosaki, all the Rich Dad advisors. That's free content, free VA loan mastery course. So many free resources out there for vets, and really have a passion to help. So,
Gotcha. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on the show today, and you added a lot of value to my listeners. And
good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to staying in touch with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, can't wait.
Good deal, man. All right, later.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Generational Wealth Through Commercial Real Estate podcast. Brought to you by Onyx Capital Investments. Onyx Capital Investments works with investors nationwide to invest in income-producing real estate in emerging markets. Connect online at www.onyxcapitalinvestments.com to learn more about what we're doing. If we have added value to your life, please leave us a review.